furthermore, the rifle that was used to shoot, that they claimed that shot Kennedy, the way that rifle was purchased was through a mail order catalog, which he could have walked into any gun and pawn store in Dallas and Fort Worth, anywhere in those areas back in those days. There was no laws where you had to wait or anything. He could just walk right in, bought the weapon, but the way that he did it, the way, it seems like he was framed, was from a mail order that could be tracked back to him at his house. So all of that. Plus, if you look at his marksmanship record, when he served, he was not a shooter.
He was a sharpshooter, sir. He was a sharpshooter. That's a misconception. Was that he was not a good shot? He was. I believe he was a sharpshooter, and his test ranked as a sharpshooter. And then what is under sharpshooter? Marksman. Is marksman right under sharpshooter?
Yes.
Because at one point in the military, he classified as a sharpshooter, and then as he left the military, he classified as a marksman, and that was testified to. I forget the guy's name who was his commanding officer in the Marine Corps, but that's on his record.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. You may know that, but I know from what I have read and what I had seen. I could be wrong, so if you may win that argument. But
yeah, I think honestly, I always thought that too, and I think it's just a very common. It's one of those things that I think has kind of been passed down.
Yeah, and now it's like
as fact,
but it's not.
And I just don't think it's. And I don't know why he ordered the. You're right. It's a weird thing he had going on with the government, going to Russia and bringing Marina back, and it's a weird thing ordering that rifle. But don't forget, he had also, I believe, tried to assassinate another public figure. There was, I forget who it was. You might, a sheriff. There was some other guy he had tried to assassinate. Do you know who that was?
It wasn't. It was an accusation. It was the guy with the government, the libertarian government of Cuba, something like that.
No. It was a guy in the States. It was. Can you maybe Danny could Google?
It was a guy that represented the libertarian government of Cuba, but he lived in New Orleans at the time. And he was. And I remember that they were talking about a huge plot assassination on the guy's life or something like that because he got into an argument with him on the streets. Right.
No, Oswald actually took a shot at somebody.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Into their window. General Walker was the guy's name. It was on April 10th of 1963. Oswald attempted to kill retired U.S. Major General Edwin Walker. He's an outspoken anti-communist, segregationist, and member of the John Birch Society. And the grand jury, Oswald purchases a. I'm sorry. I'm just reading. I'm making sure they're not going to the JFK thing.
Yeah.
He fired at Walker through a window from less than 100 feet away. As Walker sat at a desk at home, the bullet struck the window frame, and Walker's only injury was a bullet fragment to the forearm. Oswald returned home and told Marina what he had done, and he had confessed to his wife, I guess, what he had done. So, there was a lot of stuff about Oswald that kind of went into. He did have the personality of this little small man who would do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though it does look kind of fishy, my question is, why would, all these things that are so obvious, especially his government connection, is if he was being used, why would they use a guy that had defected to Russia and back? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Or why not have a better plan for him? Why would you just say, okay, run out of here, get out of here, and then go home? Why not just have him picked up and taken somewhere? He took the bus.
I think that you could probably make better points as far as why this dumbass Oswald was used. Aside from that one, I think that's a perfect reason to use him because they were building a case that he was a communist supporter.
But why use a guy?
Back in those days, some of us may remember, and I don't. I'm not that old, but at that era, the communism was like our terrorism. So everybody was on high notice. You could paint somebody with a communism brush. I mean, that was the way to go.
Regardless, it doesn't prove anything. This guy still could have just been the fucking only guy that was involved.
And why would they allow this? Is what I'm saying is, why not pick him up after? If they, say Ruby killed him. Okay, Ruby did kill him in the basement. Why would you allow this guy to shoot Kennedy, leave the building, take a bus, get picked up by the police? If he's the guy and you have to silence him, why don't you meet him after he shoots the... Why do they allow him to be questioned for 2 days by Dallas police and Secret Service?
He shoots a cop.
He
kills a
Tippit.
Cop.
That's a good point as far as the cop goes. But that's another... Again, like I said, guys, I'm kind of painting myself with the brush of being a conspiracist, but I'm really not. I think you're making valid points, but the other point I would make on that regard was that how quick he was arrested at that movie theater. Someone knew he was going to be there, and it wasn't like they got. I mean, they already had a description of the guy, his size, his weight, what he looked like, and they were ready to go for him at a movie theater.
They were. I've read moment by moment what happened after he left that movie theater. I mean, sorry, after he left the thing and went home and whatever he did, and picked up another pistol. And after he shot Tippett, there were witnesses to that.
Right.
A couple of guys chased him. They chased him after shooting Tippett, and then the one guy's like, "What are you doing? He's got to." And they ran, and then he ran into the movie. It was like I read step by step how they got him. They didn't just know he was in the movie theater, but he had shot a cop.
Yeah, if he hadn't shot the cop, if that hadn't happened, I don't think they would have gotten him.
Not immediately.
I think they had gotten him so quickly because he shot a cop, and maybe they started putting 2 and 2 together and saying, this could be the guy that shot the president.
And instead of because there was a description of him because he worked at the book depository and he wasn't accounted for.
Yeah.
And instead of people realizing this guy had just committed the assassination of a president and was panicking, dude, he was panicking. He left the fucking gun up in the book depository. And he left, and he goes home, and he gets his... It's like, instead of realizing the guy's falling apart, everybody thinks like the government just set it up, but it doesn't make sense to me. Like he's going to meet his handler. Like they're going to say to Oswald, okay, go to the movie theater and meet your handler so you can, talk about the assassination in a movie theater?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just pick him up?
Some popcorn.
You guys definitely know what you're talking about. You're not just ranting and raving about the stuff. So
Jimmy studies this.
No, because, dude, I was a conspiracy
He's read a
guy.
lot of fucking books on this thing.
I was a conspiracy guy for a long time, and I really believed that there's no way he could have done it, and on the surface, and then I finally read a lot of deeper stuff about it. And
Well, what
it's like,
turned you? What was the one thing that finally turned you?
Bugliosi's book had a lot to do with it because of the way he went through. He was meticulous about it. And one thing with a lot of the conspiracy guys is they always left a giant hole. And Bugliosi pointed out something.
So did Oswald.
He pointed out that conspiracy guys have this thing where any little thing, no matter how innocuous, that they think makes their case, they grab onto. But any piece of evidence that goes in the opposite, no matter how solid, they ignore.
Right.
And I noticed from talking to those guys and from what I've bothered, like David Lifton wrote a book called Best Evidence about the autopsy and how Commander Humes said these weird things about the autopsy and the fucking trach hole, which they thought was about all this stuff. And he left out a giant piece, which is when did they alter the body? You actually believe that they altered the president's body. His only conclusion was they did it on Air Force One. And I'm like, no, they didn't. No, they didn't. They didn't alter the president's body. Nobody at that moment is thinking, we have to make it look like the bullet came from the back. Nobody's thinking about...
What book are you referring to? So I can,
stupid.
read it?
It was called Best Evidence by David Lifton. And I've heard him... Yeah, David Lifton, smart guy. There's 6 Seconds in Dallas. There's a lot of them. But when you look at the entire statements, that they latch on to these things that people said in the moment...
Yeah.
And they take pieces of statements, and
they make it fit for their own need instead of looking at the overall picture and putting together evidence. They see what they want to believe and then take little pieces and build their story up.
And I look at the way I examined it when I was thinking it was a conspiracy, and then what turned me, and I feel I was pretty open-minded about it, and by talking to a lot of these conspiracy guys, to me they're married to the agenda of it being a conspiracy, so I lost a lot of respect for all of them.
Yeah, there's no change in their minds.
It's pretty fucking presumptive of me, but I didn't realize I was going to be calling this morning and you were going to be flipping me. So I'm going to go read that book because you make some valid points. I'm going to read that book and look into it. But on a side note, real quick, I got to run. I want to tell you guys, I'm in the Coast Guard out here in Virginia. You guys are big. And
thank you.
We appreciate your radio show, what you guys do. You guys are funny as hell. And I'll tell you, that Jesse Ventura impersonation you're doing this morning, that shit is the funniest fucking
Coast Guard. He's the guy that was chasing me near Plum Island.
Shut up.
Hey, the book, by the way, that I'm talking about to read is Reclaiming History by Bugliosi. About 1,200 pages.
Wow.
That Reclaiming History, and I think it's an 07.
Shit.
He investigated it for 20 years.
I think I'll read that side by side with the 9/11 Commission report.
It'll be a good read, though.
Yeah, it's a big one. All right, thanks for calling.
Thank you, brother. Say hi to the boys down there for us. There you go. All right.
Nicey nice.
Want to take a quick break? We got a lot of guests today. We got Mike Wolf and Frank Fritz from American Pickers coming in. And we could ask them, is it possible that someone has a fucking picture of Oswald in the window and they just don't realize it?
Imagine
They won't
I
know.
saw that.
No, but they'll have some experience in this type of shit. The stuff they have found that people
They've
never
pawed
realized they
through
had.
people's shit. Yep.
Right. Dennis Leary at 9 promoting his book, Suck On, this year. And Joey Pants.
Yes.
How do you say his last name?
Pantaleon, I think.
Pantaleon.
I think
right?
so. Oh,
Pantaleon. Joey Pants.
Joey Pants. That's why we like to say Joey Pants from The Sopranos, and he was Guido the Killer Pimp in Risky Business, and he's had a million fucking roles. He was in Memento, which was a great movie.
Oh, right.
Great fucking scene in Sopranos when he just puts his elbow in the fucking ice and just goes, first of all, she was a hooah.
Yeah.
After he kills that hooker.
Yeah.
Outside.
One of the sickest scenes in The Sopranos,
and
by
he's
the
like,
way.
he was just mad that his arm hurt.
Yeah.
It's like, give me some ice.
He was a fucking sociopath.
She was a hooah.
All right. When we get back, Andy Rooney does an entire segment naming people who have written him letters.
Oh, naming names.
Naming names. He's still reading letters from his fans.
A little harder for me to make fun of Andy Rooney these days.
Why? What
I
happened?
saw a documentary.
On him?
No, on World War II, on the Army Air Corps, the
He was part of that, right?
B-17s.
He was a reporter.
He was a reporter.
Yeah.
And this motherfucker had the balls to go on a goddamn bombing mission over Germany in a B-17 that was just getting fucked with anti-aircraft
So allow
fire
him
and
to
fighter.
allow
He
him
thought
to
he was
do
gonna
his
die.
nonsense now?
So it's like, and that's some fucking balls. But he is a doddering old fool.
I've always loved Andy Rooney, but he's fun to make fun of.
But wow, what a history that guy had from that shit. Like, that was real reporting. I want to see one of these motherfuckers. You know, I know these guys do embed themselves.
Geraldo would do it.
Yeah,
Geraldo would do it.
Geraldo would do it, but Geraldo would do it for Geraldo.
Maybe, sure.
I know fucking Geraldo well enough to know he does shit because look at me.
Right.
I'm Geraldo and I'm in danger. This motherfucker was just with, hey, I'm writing some article about the war and it would best serve the people if I went along
Fuck that.
on a. It's crazy. He thought he was dead.
All right, and also they're hunting the bears.
The Bears.
In Jersey. This comes up every fucking year. It's the exact same story every year. And we'll do it again this year for you. Maybe we'll have a different take on it.
I doubt it. I mean, sure.
Bear
Probably
hunting
won't.
season is upon us, and there's a lot of people upset and protesting. So.
Good.